Pullman Moscow and Beyond with Jordan Vorderbrueggen, a podcast where we get to know interesting people here on the Palouse.
Welcome to the Pullman Moscow and Beyond podcast. My hope is to spotlight some of the most interesting people here on the Palouse, as well as some folks I've gotten to know from beyond our area. On this episode, we talk with local home inspector Dave Weaver about what brought him to the Palouse and some of the biggest concerns on home buyers' minds these days. Did you grow up in the area here, or when did you come to the Palouse?
No, actually, I was born in Minnesota and spent the first 4 years of my life there.
Okay.
My parents decided to move to California, and on very short notice, times were different, and my dad came home and told my mother that he had sold the house.
Wow.
Which they had just built a few years earlier.
Okay.
And that they were going to California. He was a terminal manager for a trucking company there.
Okay.
In Midland, Minnesota, and he'd gotten word that he was probably going to be transferred down to the cities, down to Minneapolis, and he just didn't want that lifestyle and that pressure. And so
what area of Minnesota were you in at that time?
Fergus Falls, which is north of the Twin Cities by a couple of hours.
Okay. So what was the population size like?
At that time, it was probably in the 3,000 range.
So pretty small.
It was pretty small, yes.
Okay. And did you have siblings at that time, or?
My sister had been born. There's just the two of us. She's 2 years younger than I am.
Okay.
And so, young family.
Back in those days, maybe the man kind of made decisions. Did you just find someone who wanted the house? Was that how it went down?
That was pretty much how it happened. Like I say, he was pretty well connected in the community.
Right.
And somebody had come in and said, I really like your house. I think I'm going to build one just like it.
Okay.
And my dad said, well, why don't you just buy mine?
Yeah.
And the guy said, well, that sounds like a pretty good idea.
Right.
It was pretty spontaneous, spur of the moment. I know they had probably talked about making some changes, but that was pretty abrupt. And so anyhow, I grew up in California.
Which part of California?
San Francisco Bay Area,
Okay.
East Bay.
Yeah.
San Lorenzo, San Leandro, Hayward, Castro Valley.
Okay.
And then we moved up here in 95.
Okay.
So we've been here for 30 years in Moscow, and when we came up, we were just looking for a kinder, gentler place to raise the kids. We had a young family, 3 youngsters, and my youngest was only 3 months old at the time.
How old were you when you moved up then?
Yeah, early 30s.
Okay. So you had spent a decent amount of your adult life in the Bay Area.
Absolutely.
And you just kind of decided it wasn't the lifestyle you wanted.
Was in the trucking business and putting on a lot of miles. I was driving one truck, had other drivers.
Okay.
My wife was running the office.
Okay.
And with 3 young kids, I was working 80 hours a week, and she was busy all the time, and things were just getting crazier and crazier in California, it seemed, and we just decided that was not the lifestyle that we really wanted to raise the kids.
Right.
And so we started to look around the country, and we kind of cut out huge areas. We didn't want to trade the West Coast for the East Coast. That didn't make any sense.
Right.
The South we were not particularly interested in.
Okay.
So kind of migrated towards the Northwest for our search. And one of the communities that we decided to look at was Pullman. And we were trying to find a community where smaller, but still had kind of a university close by. And in this case, we have the 2 universities. So there's still a lot of activities that the kids could watch, sporting events, music, theater, museums, things to that effect.
Okay.
And we found that Moscow just offered a lot of what we were looking for, and they were able to participate in a lot of activities, sports and theater and things that interested them, music.
Absolutely.
And, we didn't have to just choose one thing. In the Bay Area, it could have, even at that time, taken you, half hour, 45 minutes to go 5 miles across town.
Yeah.
And here, kids could hit numerous things. And our older 2 were of age where they could get around a little bit themselves.
Okay.
Especially in the, coming years when they were into middle school and high school. And so they were able to transport themselves. But even if Lynn had to get one child dropped off at soccer and another at music, she could do that pretty easily.
Absolutely. How old when you moved up?
3 months and 6 were the boys. My daughter was 8.
Okay. So young enough, it wasn't a huge transition probably in some ways, because it wasn't like they were in junior high or something where they had already made all these friends.
No, I think that they were able to make the transition really well,
Yeah.
successfully. And of course, Moscow was a little smaller at the time.
Right.
You know, everything's growing.
Yeah.
So it was a good place to raise kids, and I think it still is. I think Moscow Pullman is still a great place to raise children.
For sure.
But for us, it worked out really well in our family.
One thing I've observed, I mean, I've lived here most of my life, especially my childhood life, but is that sometimes when kids move from somewhere, even if they don't really remember growing up in California, they have this idea that, oh, I wish I could have been in California. Did you ever get any of that?
Not for California itself,
Okay.
but more that for a lot of years, our older two had a lot of family close by.
Right.
Had all their grandparents there, had a number of cousins, aunts
Okay.
and uncles, and grew up with that.
Right.
When we left that, they did miss the family aspect.
Okay.
But the family had started to disperse at that point.
Okay.
People had started to move to Tennessee and to Sacramento, and so
Interesting. So there was a tie to extended family in the Bay Area?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And what about your parents? Were they still down there when you moved up?
They were. They left shortly thereafter, and they moved back to Minnesota.
Okay.
They're currently there now.
Okay.
And will be for the remainder of their days.
Okay.
So
Because that's where they grew up?
they did, and they still had family there. They went back at that time. My grandmother, both of my grandmothers were actually both living
Okay.
at that time. And so they went back to help them out. And they had siblings back there.
Sure.
So they had some pull.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, you see that sometimes where people feel like in their last years, they want to go back to what's most familiar and the family ties to where they grew up. So
Yes.
very cool. And so no family that's extended in this area now.
None, and we had no family here when we moved up. It was a kind of a fresh start.
Yeah.
It makes it easier when you have young children to get integrated into the community because you're doing a lot of
Sure.
activities with the kids, and you meet people of similar backgrounds and interests. My sister and her husband were in Redmond as he had worked for Microsoft. And
Okay.
so they had been up there for a few years before we moved. So that was our closest family.
And does she still live in the area or?
She actually trilocates. Her son works for Walmart in Bentonville. They've got a house in Bentonville. They've got a house now where their other son is in Scottsdale, and then one in San Francisco.
Oh, nice.
So they've actually left the Bellevue area, Clyde Hill, where they lived for many years. They did have an apartment there for a while after they sold their home, but they've decided to give all that up and
get a little better weather in Bentonville and in Arizona, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Bentonville's an interesting place. I've had some people tell me about it just because Walmart's headquartered there. You wouldn't expect like Arkansas to have a lot going on, but since so many companies are trying to work with Walmart, they have facilities there and things.
Well, and the Waltons do spend a lot of money building museums, musical, forums, and I would agree. It's not what you'd consider typical Arkansas.
Right.
Bentonville is kind of a place of its own.
Yeah. Well, they should give back to the community because if you look up what they make per hour, it's pretty insane.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Very cool. And then now your kids, you have some local and some semi-local, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
My youngest and his wife are living here in Pullman.
Okay.
And he owns an auto shop in Moscow, and she's a teacher at Lincoln.
Okay.
My older two, they live on the west side.
Right.
And unfortunately, all the grandkids are over there. But you know, we make the trip over, and they make trips over here. So
well, same state at least, right?
Yeah.
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 What's your son's auto business called?
It's Lux Auto House.
Lux Auto House, and they do auto repair mostly?
They do, yeah.
Okay.
They focus on imports, but they work on everything.
Okay.
They do a lot of Mercedes, a lot of BMW, Audis, European. But they work on everything.
Okay. And then you have one son who's a realtor on the west side, right?
That's correct, my middle.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long has he been doing that?
Well, he has been in the real estate business for probably 12 years now.
Okay.
He graduated as an electrical engineer from Seattle U, and he spent 4 years at Puget Sound Naval Shipyard as a nuclear engineer.
Wow.
And just found that working in government situations where he was very innovative and was looking for ways to improve processes, looking for ways to save the government money. Yeah. And he was working with a lot of people that were in their chairs for 35, 40 years, and they just simply said, no, we don't do that.
That's not the gig here.
That's not what we do. We don't make work for ourselves.
Yeah.
And so that was unfortunate. And really, I think he just had a tough time with that attitude.
Yeah.
And so he started out wholesaling houses on the side.
Okay.
And he bought a few in Bremerton and started flipping some houses and really got his feet wet that way. And he built a network, and he was doing really well with the wholesaling. And then he decided to get his, brokerage license and worked for a brokerage in Silverdale for a few years. And he kind of quickly outgrew them. Yeah. And went over to the other side of the pond, so to speak, and landed in Seattle. Okay. And Bellevue has been very good to them. Yeah. And so he's with EXP now. Okay. And been with EXP for quite a while. Right. And so he's got his own brokerage with a number of agents or brokers under him. Yeah. And then what does your daughter do? She's a stay-at-home mom now. She was a social worker. She's also had some businesses that she has started up, and her husband works for Sound Transit. And he's able to work from home, which is great. Nice. It's a good opportunity for them. Yeah, don't have to fight that traffic. Exactly. So all your kids have kind of an entrepreneurial bone, and then you have been involved in multiple businesses. Where do you think that comes from? Were you kind of the first one that had that kind of inkling, or was your dad that way also, or? Yeah, no, I think I got it from my dad. Yeah. He was, like I say, he was a terminal manager in Fergus Falls for Raymond Motor Freight, and when he decided to move, he'd had some contacts, and he made a relationship with a friend, got him into Ringsby in Oakland, which was a pretty large terminal at that time. Ringsby was out of Denver. They had 170 employees in Oakland, and he worked there for a year or two and wanted to start his own business. So he would literally work nights at Ringsby. He was a claims clerk. Okay. And so he'd go in at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, work till midnight, go home, sleep for a few hours, and then work his business all day. Yeah. And he did that for a couple of years. And so he started his own moving and storage business. Okay. And that's what I grew up in, was the trucking business. Yeah. And so I guess I got that entrepreneurial spirit from him. Right. And sort of related to real estate in a way, right? Because you're probably helping people who are selling their homes or buying homes, right? Well, certainly involved in it, although he never had any interest in real estate at all. Okay. He had many opportunities to invest, which he, would have been great if he would have. He just never did. Yeah. And other than his own primary residence. But I always had an interest in real estate. And I started my own trucking company. Actually, I may still be the youngest person to ever apply for their operating authority in California. Oh, wow. I graduated from high school at 17. I was around the trucking business all these years. In fact, I just felt like that was my calling. Yeah. And so I got my operating authority, or I applied for it when I was 17. Wow. And a man in San Francisco at the PUC helped me through that process and gave me a call after a month or so and said, well, we've looked through your application, you've taken the test, you've got financial security, et cetera, et cetera. But he says, we don't really know what to do with you because we've never had anybody apply for their authority that wasn't of their legal majority. Wow. So he said, what we're going to do is we're going to issue your operating authority, but we're going to put it on ice until you turn 18. Okay. And so the day I turned 18, I was officially in business. Wow. And so that's pretty cool. That was my first business. How did that work? Were you transporting goods long haul, short haul? Explain that a little bit. Well, initially I just did local moving and storage. Okay. So I had one truck and a couple of hired guys, and just worked locally.
Okay.
And then at one point I did go on the road. I ran 48 states moving furniture. I did that for a few years.
Wow.
Came off the road and stayed just in California for a number of years, between San Francisco and LA.
Yeah.
And that's what I was doing when we decided to sell the real estate that we had owned, sell the trucking company, and move up here.
Was there some type of business or a job that brought you to the area?
No, I actually didn't have a job when I came here. I'd made contact with what was then T&T United down in Lewiston.
Okay.
Ty Pafiel was the terminal manager down there. And I'd visited with him, and I'd been up and visited with him, and Ty just kept saying, well, you know, when you get up here, just give me a call. We'll put you on. So I moved up and did go to driving for them, line driving, and I thought, well, I'll do this for a year just to decompress, because I had been running pretty hard for a long time.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I'll just do this for a year. I ended up staying 5.5 years there.
Okay.
Which was longer than I should have. And then I went back to school, finished my degree down at LC.
Okay.
And went to work for Schweitzer.
Okay.
As a network engineer. And I was there for a number of years. And loved Schweitzer. Made a change, went from IS over to ES, and that did not turn out to be what they had promised. And I understand it was a new group they were spinning up, so they really didn't know where that business was going to go.
Right.
But instead of a lot of travel, including international travel that they had promised, I ended up 2 nights in San Diego over a 2.5-year period.
Yeah.
And that was all the travel I did. The rest of the time I was sitting in a cube looking at line drawings. And it just about killed me, to be honest, because I was used to, in IS, I had the opportunity to be embedded 50% of the time with the property group.
Okay.
So I was involved in most of the construction of the Pullman campus and all of Lewiston, Charlotte, and multiple Canadian offices, and a lot of offices all over the U.S. And so I did a lot of travel there.
Right.
And I was out in the field like 50% of the time, which was great, because I'm the type of person who likes to move.
Yeah.
And I made the move over to ES. I was not able to do that any longer, and I put on a lot of weight, and I just wasn't happy.
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel good. I really didn't feel good. And so I was thinking of making a change, and I was talking to the family, and my son, who was already involved in real estate at that point, said, well, you know, with all of your experience on real estate, because we'd done flips for years, and you like to be outside, you're not afraid of heights, you know, you've got the experience, you know what to look for. Why don't you consider inspecting?
Yeah.
And the more I thought about it, the more it appealed to me, and I decided to go ahead and take the course, get licensed, started my business in 2017.
Okay.
And I just wish I had done it 10 years earlier.
Yeah.
Because I just love what I do every day. It's kind of like, I equate it with playing golf.
Okay.
You can play the same course every day.
Yeah.
And the rules don't change.
Right.
You still have the same tasks to accomplish, but every day the course plays different.
Yeah.
You know, the weather's different, the homes are different, I meet new people, I'm working with different brokers, meet a lot of nice people, and I look forward to it every day.
Yeah, and that's awesome.
It also, I think it keeps me in much better shape because I'm moving all the time. And
Absolutely.
That's something that I need. I didn't understand that when my dad was in the moving business and he was middle-aged, but he always said, you know, I feel so much better when I'm working.
Yeah.
And
because it was physical work.
Physical work.
Yeah.
And although what I do is not physically demanding,
sure,
there is a certain level of athleticism, climbing around attics and crawl spaces.
I've seen some of the attics and crawl spaces you've gotten into, and it's impressive. Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's been a great fit for me, and I really love it. And like I say, it's different every day. We also do commercial and some industrial inspections, and so that keeps it fresh too, doing some of those. But you know, the bulk of our business is residential inspections.
Sure. Yeah, I think if you have that entrepreneurial drive, and even if you're having to work a lot, or maybe working more than you want to, you're still kind of in control of your work, and then go to work for someone, it's tough, right?
I've done both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done both, and there's benefits and drawbacks to both.
Sure.
Certainly, Schweitzer was good to me, and I loved it. First 10 years were fantastic.
Yeah.
A lot of it's got to do with, you know, who you're working for.
Yeah.
So that was good, and they treated me well. The benefits were great. but yeah, you don't have a lot of control sometimes. Whereas you're in business for yourself, you have control. That also brings responsibility, and you're always working for somebody.
Right.
You know, I may be in business for myself,
Yeah.
but ultimately I'm working for that client.
Right.
Every day when I go out, I'm working for that person. And I have to do the best job I can do for them, and I have to take care of their needs and protect them. So we always have somebody that's our boss, so to speak, and that's fine.
Sure.
But I do have a certain autonomy that allows me to make decisions.
Yeah.
That are
And if
impactful.
someone's really a jerk, you can say, you know what? I'm probably not the best fit for you, and I'm gonna go. I know that never happens with you, but it has for me a couple times. I'm a younger agent, and there are times that I've observed you with clients, or even myself, you kind of have a little bit of a fatherly aspect. Do you ever feel that way, especially with these younger first-time home buyers, where you can be like the dad that actually knows about the house versus maybe some of those dads think they know a lot about homes but really don't?
Well, I try not to.
Sure.
I really try not to. I try to keep my distance. I try to present what we find
Yeah.
in an understandable, non-alarmist manner.
Right.
I always feel like my clients, irregardless of whether it's their first home, their fifth home, their 10th investment property, whatever, they have a certain level of knowledge, and I never discount that.
Right.
But I always try to make it understandable so that they're able to absorb that information.
Right.
Some people would like some mentorship, and you can kind of sense that sometimes.
Yeah.
And I try to help where I can.
Right.
But I never feel like I'm your parent and I should be telling you what to do. I'm never going to tell somebody. And we get often asked, should I buy this house? I never can answer that question.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what you're looking for. I don't know what your financial resources are. I don't know what your long-term goals are. I don't know what your experience level is as far as handling repairs or improvements. So I really don't answer that question. My typical answer to that question is, this is the information to help you make the decisions that you need to make. And hopefully it's going to provide you with that basis of understanding of what you're getting into.
Right.
That allows you to make good decisions. And I'm always happy to answer questions, and to the point where they're welcome to call, text, email, 6 months after the fact.
Absolutely.
And happy to answer questions, because sometimes they'll get into the home and something will come up and they just have a general question. And I'm always happy to answer those questions.
Yeah, and there are probably things that they remember it was on the inspection report and it was pay attention to this, it's not an immediate need, but then maybe it's become more of an immediate need, so they just want as much info as possible, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's pretty cool. Well, I've known you to go above and beyond for sure. Actually, Dave and I were the other night in a property. Dave was in the attic at 9 p.m. the other night because we needed to reassure a client and get some more information at the property. And he said, well, I can go over there tonight. I said, me too. Let's just go take care of it. I think that goes a long way. I know that those clients were super appreciative that you were able to take quick action so that they were able to make a decision within their timeline, things like that. So
Good. I'm glad that worked out. I think that's really important, is that we are in a time-sensitive business where contractually you have to have answers and make responses, and I never want to be an obstacle in a transaction.
Yeah.
I want to be able to provide our end of the project and the deliverable in a timely manner so that you and your clients are able to get your responses in order and have an appropriate amount of time to look at that report and to decide what are the important things in the transaction for them.
Well, I know you work like me in a way that sometimes it's like, let's just get this done, right? Because we know the next day is going to bring new challenges. There's going to be something that you thought was going to take this amount of time and then it takes an extra hour. So sometimes it's just easier for us also to, let's just take action now versus postpone things. It helps the clients out as well, just to give them as much time to make these decisions as possible. I always encourage my clients, even if we have a 10-day standard in our contract is 10-day inspection period, right? But I always encourage them, well, let's get this scheduled and performed as soon as we can so that we have that extra time. If we need specialists or someone else to come look at something, we have time to get them in there. We can extend that out a little bit, but at some point, especially with the way our contracts are designed, we need to tighten up the timeline.
Right.
It's not fair to the seller for us to take 30 days to evaluate the property. It's just not realistic for them to have them home off the market and then have to come back on the market if the buyer decides not to move forward.
Right.
Yeah.
We're happy to facilitate that to the best of our ability. And the fact that we do have 2 inspectors does give us a little more flexibility than some of the other inspectors in the area.
Right.
And we like that.
Yeah.
We like the fact that we can work together to move an inspection along a little quicker during the day, or if geographically it makes sense to go separate ways and cover different inspections, we do that. But particularly if we get on a large, for example, multifamily.
Sure.
Had one last year, it was 40 units.
Wow.
In Moscow. And it really helps to have 2 inspectors. Even at that, it's a 2.5 day project.
Absolutely.
But for a single inspector to do 40 units, it's going to take them the better part of a week.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of scheduling. That's a lot of disruption for tenants just to have people around. It's just nice to say, okay, we're going to have a finite amount of time. On this day, you're going to have your inspection. Your day is going to be here. And then walk right through the units and do what we need to do and get those reports turned around in a relatively short period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a big project for sure. And so Kyle has been with you for how long now?
A little over a year.
Okay.
14 months. Yeah.
And that's worked out really well.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's been a real asset.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and sometimes even on a single family home that's maybe a little bit of a bigger house, you guys will tackle it at the same time, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we do that quite often.
Yeah. Yeah, that probably works out really well.
It does.
Move through them, keep things moving. Yeah, we appreciate that for sure. What are some of the items that you're seeing become hot topics for buyers that maybe weren't a few years ago? I know the one that comes to mind for me is radon. Tell us a little bit about, because you do radon testing, right?
We do, yes.
Okay.
Radon is a naturally occurring gas. It's the byproduct of decaying uranium and radium. Every home has some level of radon, particularly in our area.
And it's not from like a nuclear reactor or anything like that. It's just, this has always occurred in the soil. People haven't probably paid attention because they just didn't even know it.
Well, really, radon was unknown in homes until about 1995.
Wow.
It's only been the last 30 years.
Yeah.
And so the awareness has gone up considerably since then. But no, it's really a matter of how much granite is in the soil.
Okay.
And so we have levels that generally range from, say, 2 picocuries per liter of air up to the highest I've seen in the area is about 25, which is relatively high because the EPA says anything over 4 picocuries per liter of air should be mitigated or remediated. But you just go 90 miles north up to the Spokane Valley, Coeur d'Alene area, which is where most of the remediation companies are actually located, and they regularly see 175.
That's insane.
It is insane, and to be honest, every home in the Spokane Valley should probably be mitigated. I've done some inspections up there, and the levels are very, very high. So, and the mitigation is a very simple process. It's not terribly expensive, and once it's done, it's 100% effective. Even those homes, like I say, up north that are well over 100 picocuries per liter of air can be remediated down to 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And it's a very safe level at that point. And so it's 100% effective.
Well, I took a class last year that was very informative on radon, because I think we know a little bit about it, but it was super helpful to get the history of that. It isn't something that people know a whole lot about. And yeah, it was a partnership with one of the main mitigators up there. And they were talking about that. And they had claimed that Spokane and Coeur d'Alene are actually probably the highest in the country.
They're
hot
extremely
pocket.
high.
And it has to do with the Missoula floods and the way the soil moved. That's got to be something that a lot of people don't know about. And is it the leading cause of lung cancer, they think now?
Second leading, behind smoking, but before secondhand smoke. So, and that's because you're exposed to it. And that's one of the saddest things is I have on numerous occasions went to pick up a radon monitor. Many times the seller will be at the home when I go to pick it up after it's been testing for 48 hours. And they'll ask, what is radon? And I'll kind of give them a short debrief on what radon is and what its risks are. And I had one in Moscow last year, and a lady was selling her home because her husband had died. And on my way out of the house, she said, we built this house in 1977. We lived here all those years. And she said, my husband died last year of lung cancer. And he was a university professor, and he'd never smoked a day in his life. Well, sure enough, I got back to the office and pulled up the results, and it was about an 8, which is fairly high. Yeah. And so for multiple decades, they had lived in the home and had no idea, because it's odorless, it's tasteless, you have no idea. But in essence, what you're doing is with every breath you take, you're giving your lungs an X-ray, because it is a radioactive gas. And so I feel bad for folks like that. And I test homes that are 100 years old that are extremely high, and I just think how many families or how many generations of people have gone through this home, and maybe they passed from lung cancer and had no idea where it came from. And yet it was as simple as a $2,500 repair on a home that will take care of it.
It's very consistent. That's right about where it's at. $2,500 to $3,000, depending on the home.
Very inexpensive.
And a couple of factors. But when you think about the long-term investment, it's definitely worth it.
Well, it's worth it to know either way. Yeah. If it's low, I say great. Yeah, now you know that the radon levels are low and there's no risk. Yeah. You have that peace of mind. And it's not something that varies. The half-life on radon is thousands of years, tens of thousands of years. So if you have high radon, it's not going to go away next year. It simply isn't. If it's low, then you're fine. It's not going to get exponentially greater. The only thing that changes it really is seasonality. Right. In the wintertime, because we have our homes closed up more, there's moisture on the ground or snow cover. Radon gas is like water. It's looking for the easiest path. And that's going to be towards drier soil, which is underneath the home. Right. And then it's going to come up into the home. So it will be higher in the winter months, early spring, lower in the summer and the fall. Right. And so if we have one that's marginal, in the middle of summer, I often tell folks, you got to pass here. Sure. But if you're at a 3.9, it will likely be higher in the winter time.
Right, and the EPA advises if it's at a 4 or above to mitigate, to have a mitigation system put in. And then I think the World Health Organization is like a 2 something that they advise. So, I mean, definitely if you're above 4 in the summertime, you're thinking wintertime is going to be higher, you're going to want to put that mitigation system in.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
I've had a few lately that have had higher radon, so it's been on my mind. And another broker locally was telling me they were talking to the main mitigation company in Spokane, and they were talking about how up there a lot of realtors, or maybe we shouldn't blame the realtors, but sellers are trying to manipulate the tests, which, I mean, is just a really horrible thing to do when you think about it. I mean, this could be something that could seriously give someone lung cancer, especially at the levels they have up there. When I took that class, he was talking about, because we're so regulation heavy in Washington State, it's kind of surprising that there isn't more regulation along these lines, but the West Side doesn't have the problems.
No.
right?
No.
And so just like many things in our state, the legislation is dictated by the West Side.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the reason, but I would like to see something along those lines, because we have requirements for CO monitors and smoke detectors and things like that. And when you really think about it, if you have a really high radon level, that's probably more of a risk than a fire or your furnace leaking.
Yeah.
I mean, the furnace leaking would be a bad thing as well, but the likelihood of that happening was pretty low compared to a high radon level affect your overall health. So,
well, and back to the manipulation and molesting the test, we always advise that everything stay closed. We'd like to have a 48-hour, but I have had people do that in the area. I have had bad tests, and I can tell by reading the charts. Our equipment is very sophisticated.
right.
You can buy the charcoal tests, they're fine. Takes 30, 40 days for you to get any sort of results from that. Ours, we will have a valid test in 24 hours, but we like to leave them run for 48. But when I pick up a monitor and I can see my initial 3 or 4 hours are up here, and then all of a sudden I've left the home, and now it's down here.
Right.
And I see this big temperature variation because our devices monitor humidity, temperature, radon levels. So there's a lot of information. It's all graphed and it's all charted. And so we're skilled at reading these. And we can tell when somebody has suddenly opened up the windows, opened the doors, and that's a bad test.
Yeah.
That's a bad test. And I have told buyers and brokers that we've had a test that this is not valid.
Yeah.
And I've gone back and I've retested, and I do that free of charge because I want the customer to have good information. I also have the benefit of having done hundreds and hundreds of tests. I don't make general statements about neighborhoods because people often ask, is radon high in this neighborhood? Well, I can't make a broad general statement because literally I've tested a home that may be low and go 3 houses down and it'll be high.
Right.
Some of that is due to how tight is the envelope of the home. Newer homes tend to be built much tighter, more efficient. They hold the gas in more than older homes. But I do have a general idea of some pockets. And if I have one that, you know, I've tested 4 homes in a neighborhood and they've all been high, and now I get one that's extremely low, I'm suspicious, and I really look over that report with a fine tooth.
Yeah, and Pioneer Hill tends to be high, I'll say it. Pioneer Hill tends to be kind of the hottest area in Pullman, but there have been, I know you did one for one of my clients over by the high school in a relatively newer home, early 2000s, that I wasn't expecting to come back high earlier this year, and it came back really high. But that could be even a small crevice in the foundation or something as well that's not necessarily something that's going to be a major defect for the home, but it's enough that it comes through. Or like you say, if there's higher level of granite or some type of soil makeup that just happens to be in that spot, it can be pretty random.
It is very random sometimes, yes.
So the other big one that I know is a concern for folks is mold. Where do we usually see mold?
Predominantly attics are a big problem area because of lack of ventilation or introduction of moisture through either a bathroom fan or a kitchen fan. When you're introducing warm, moist air from a bathroom, in the wintertime in particular, maybe the air is still or where we don't have enough ventilation, and we've got that vent into the attic but not through the roof, it's going to blow that warm air onto that cold surface, and you're going to immediately have condensation. And of course, mold only needs 2 things, and one is moisture, the other is a food source. And when we're talking food source, we're not talking hamburgers and hot dogs, we're just talking about dirt. We're just talking about a little bit of soil or some organic material that the mold can feed on. And that environment is ripe for mold growth. So attics are probably number 1. The other is crawl spaces underneath the home. We can also see it inside if we've got exterior siding, for example, that's got a penetration and is allowing that moisture to get into the walls or behind the exterior sheathing. Then you've got either OSB or plywood, sometimes lap wood back there. Those are all prime sources. If it gets through that and it gets into your insulation or to your drywall, mold loves drywall. Gypsum is a prime source for their food. So we also see it, of course, underneath sinks, for example, if there's been a long-term leak. And mold, unless it's really extreme, should not be a deal killer because it's fixable.
Right.
You just need to get rid of that moisture source. Figure out where the water's coming from. If it doesn't have water, it can't grow. And then you may have to clean up what is there, but 99 times out of 100, that's going to be a fixable defect. But people are very, very worried about it, as they should be, but maybe a little too much is done about it. So we identify organic growth when we see it. We will put that in the report and with a recommendation that a moisture remediation company then test and remediate as needed.
Yeah, I think attics are definitely the top. That's got to be like 75% of it, probably, right?
Yes, and here is the shocking thing, and it's really disappointing. We've seen this more in the last 2 years than ever before, is getting into an attic with a brand new roof.
Yeah.
The roof has been replaced within the last year or two.
Wow.
And we get into an attic and it is absolutely black.
Wow.
And we've got delaminating plywood. It's just boggles the mind. The roofing contractor or the homeowner, nobody even peeked in the attic before they did a complete tear off and a re-roof. And the only fix for some of these roofs is literally the roof deck needs to come off, so that you're just tearing off a new roof.
Yeah.
And
well, and if you had looked before you did it, most of the time they're already kind of looking for a couple of pieces of plywood that might need to be swapped out. But how much easier for them to take that plywood off when everything's already torn off the roof. It's typically decent weather, you know.
And then it's fixed
crazy.
right, and it's a lot less expensive than doing mold remediation. But I've seen it many, many times in the last 2 years, and it just is really disappointing.
Because then they're going to have to do a really, probably a decent amount of remediation, or like you said, they may end up even having to tear all that wood off and start from scratch, which that takes you from, I just saw one the other day, I think they were charging $60 for each piece of plywood that needed to be replaced during the roofing process. So you got to think, okay, if I'm being charged $60 per piece of plywood and then it's taken care of, versus you're going to be paying probably at least $15,000 for a new roof, plus all the cost of all the plywood, possibly some remediation still to take care of other parts of the attic. Wow. You've got a lot of times bathroom vent fans that go through the attic are disconnected, right? So that's going to be a cause. A leaking roof, those are the main sources of moisture, lack of ventilation, right? So those can be factors that create that environment.
Yeah, and some of these fixes are very simple. A lot of times we'll see insulation that is just either over-insulated or it's been pushed out over the soffit and covered the vents, the soffit vents. And in that case, it's just a matter of somebody getting up there for an hour with an insulation rake and pulling it back and getting that flow of air again. Or we see somebody who's taken a bathroom vent, and we see this often, they'll want to take it up to a roof vent, for example, because they think, well, I got it this far from the roof deck and it's right by the vent. But that's not how convection works. That's not how airflow works. What happens is you're thinking that you're blowing that moist air out, when in essence, you're getting a lot of airflow back into the roof or into the attic, and it will push that warm, moist air back into the attic. So it really needs to go through the roof.
Yeah.
And that's an easy thing to do. A roofer can do it in a matter of an hour, but a lot of folks just have cut a corner there.
And unfortunately, we have to be careful when we're hiring folks. I know a lot of people hire the companies that go blow insulation in their attic, and that's probably a common time I would imagine when something like that happens, right? It's an older home, we want some additional insulation. You can get a tax break or some little discount if you make your home more energy efficient, and then they just go cover those soffits and
Yeah. Yeah.
you create the problem.
Exactly.
So I know those seem to, at least from my experience, be the kind of major ones that really freak people out, is the radon and the mold. But like you said, pretty fixable. Both of those items are a few $1,000s to probably correct permanently. The one I've seen a little bit this year, just the past couple of years, is people letting their roofs go too long. So that's probably, which can create the mold problem. How often are you seeing roofs that really look like they're end of life?
More often than we'd like.
Yeah.
The other caveat there is, and maybe you've run into this, but we've had a lot more strictly roof inspections that are being demanded by insurance companies. Mm-hmm. Insurers, it seems, are looking for reasons not to write policies.
Right.
And they are asking people to have roof inspections done on roofs that are absolutely fine. But what they're doing is they're taking satellite imagery and they'll zone in on your roof. And if they see anything that is a little blur or something, they flag it. And some of these folks have been with their insurance companies for 20 years.
Yeah.
And their insurer is saying, we need a roof inspection or we're not going to rewrite your policy.
Yeah.
And sometimes we get up there and yes, it's legitimate. There actually is a bad roof or one that's about to go. And many times the roofs are great. And maybe it was just a shadow.
Sure.
But that's what they're requiring their clients to do now. And that's really...
So you're able to do just a roof inspection to help someone satisfy their insurance company?
Yeah.
Cool.
We can do a limited scope inspection on just about any portion of the home. We also do maintenance inspections for folks that just want to know, hey, are there things that I need to do?
Right.
We do 11-month inspections on new homes. So a lot of folks have 1-year warranty on their new home. At 11 months, they want to know if there's anything that they're missing that they should go back to their builder on and ask for remediation. So we also do the 11-month inspections. But yes, we do a crawl space only, for example, or an attic only, or a roof only. We can tailor your inspection for what you need. Now, for most transactions, people are going to want a full home inspection. But for those homeowners that just have a concern about a particular system in their home, we can do that.
Yeah, and I've observed a lot of people, I think when you're in the industry, and I mean, you did stuff before even doing home inspections, you were having investment properties in the world. If you grow up in a family where dad does a lot of projects at home, you kind of know what to look for sometimes, or you can see, well, that doesn't look quite right. But in my experience, I see a lot of folks that just feel like they really don't know what to look for. Right. So probably having an inspection once every couple of years, if you feel like this is just not my wheelhouse, is not a bad thing for overall maintenance.
Agreed.
Anything else that comes to mind for people thinking they might be selling a home in the next couple of years? What might be some things that they should tidy up before a home inspection?
Right. Obviously, some of the bigger ticket items are important. If you know that you've got electrical issues, for example, or you have just ungrounded outlets, a lot of those things can be remediated easily. You can have an electrician come in. If your panel is new enough, you can move to arc flash breakers, AFCIs. That is one way to get those outlets protected without pulling new wire. And that can be even done on a 2-wire system where you have just a hot and a neutral, no ground wire. The other remediation for that is they can put in GFCIs in specific locations on the branch circuit to protect those branches. Now, that's not going to protect your sensitive electronics. So if you've got a $4,000 computer and you plug it into an AFCI, that has to go back to the panel before it trips, which is going to happen in about 40 milliseconds. You'll never feel it, but the motherboard on your computer will definitely feel it hurt. Just be aware of that, using a surge protector for that type of situation. Roofs, as we've been discussing, big ticket item. A lot of that can be seen from the ground sometimes. If you have missing shingles, for example, or you can tell that something's out of alignment up there, or there's bare spots, or you just see in the sunlight, you'll see a glint of shiny edges. Well, that's the base material starting to show. Your granular material is going away, and that's your first layer of protection. So that may be a flag for somebody.
Right.
Obviously, paint and trim, one of those things that is normal maintenance. It's also really important, I think, to, if you're going to market your home, you have good curb appeal.
Right.
That first impression when a person drives up, takes a look at the home, they can sometimes tell in the first 3 or 4 minutes if they're going to be interested in your home or not. And if there's a lot of debris in your yard, with a couple of extra cars that haven't moved for 6 months or a year, get that stuff out. Do whatever you're going to do, but get rid of it. Clean up your yard. Make your home appealing to that buyer when you first walk up the steps. Because a lot of folks do make that decision. It's like love at first sight or an immediate turn off. So those are easy things to do. Landscaping is another nice thing to have some landscaping in. But as far as big ticket items, if you're living in the home, you probably know some of the things that are wrong.
Right.
Hey, that faucet's been leaking for 4 years. Go ahead and fix it. It's not a bad idea to get an inspection beforehand as a seller. Then you know what will come up on a report for somebody else. It's easier and cheaper to fix it when you're not under an inspection response period. Then you're searching for somebody to get the job done, and you're willing to pay extra because you need it done.
I don't necessarily want to advise people not to have a professional do something, but if you have, let's say, a leaky faucet, that's not a hard thing to do. For one, you can go on YouTube and probably figure it out. But if that doesn't feel comfortable, you probably know someone who can help you out. A buddy from work, a family member, whatever. It is far cheaper to go through on some of those things, tidy them up, get someone who knows what they're doing to help you out with a couple of those things. Because when we're asking on the inspection response, typically, we're usually asking for a licensed contractor to do it. If it's a plumbing thing, we're going to ask that a plumber do it. We don't want you just trying to fix it when you clearly haven't maintained it for all these years. And I would say, to go back to the radon, maybe get a radon test. They're pretty inexpensive. I'm not going to be surprised if many of these homes have mitigation systems 10 years from now, just like we have many sump pumps in the area, right? For wet crawl spaces and things like that.
And if a home does have a mitigation system in it, there's nothing to fear. There really isn't, because the home is safe. If the system is working as it is, and that's just a matter of the fan running, basically, which is low speed, very quiet. If somebody is selling a home that does have a mitigation system in it, just be glad that it's already been taken care of.
They actually have systems that were installed in the 90s. They're working perfectly fine.
Absolutely.
Helps your resale later.
Absolutely. Yes.
Well, thanks for coming to do the podcast, Dave. It was great to learn a little bit about your background, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on our next inspection together.
Well, great. Well, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
This has been the Pullman Moscow and Beyond podcast with Jordan Vorderbrueggen, a podcast where we get to know interesting people here on the Palouse. This week's episode was hosted at the beautiful property Jordan has listed for sale, 1325 Southwest Panorama Drive in lovely Pullman, Washington. If you'd like to check out that property, visit panorama.pullmanmoscow.com. You can find new episodes of the Pullman Moscow and Beyond with Jordan Vorderbrueggen podcast at pullmanmoscow.com/podcast or wherever podcasts are found. MLS number 285344.